Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're new, thanks for finding us. And if you're a veteran, thanks for coming again and again. And we have our fearless leader, Hans, here.
And Gabor's voice of reason and moderation.
Moderation, yeah. I'm just a student of Hans. And I thought when I started training with Hans, I go, Hans, we should put this on the internet. I hear people are on this gadget.
And I remember it, like you said, I said, okay. And he says, well, how much do you give me? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what's good price, 5%. And you said, fuck 5%.
5%.
Anyway, doesn't matter. It was funny, so I thought.
It's the labor of love.
No, I see, this is worth more than 5%, his technology and his knowledge and all that.
It's a labor of love because I love dogs. And,
it's great, man. I really appreciate it.
And Hans's voice needs to be heard because it's, as you're listening to this, it's.
You mean my melodious voice?
This melodious voice. This whole, we just had and we won't, we can talk about this, but, just watch every single video on YouTube about obedience, and it's cookie training. It's food or treats.
Usually treats.
Usually treats, probably 90.
But you know what depresses me about that? That I have people, I had a guy today, a nice guy, man. I will help him training and all that. I will do my best. And I said, so I said, I'm following you for years, he says.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I said, okay, well, that sounds good. And then I said, so how do you motivate the dog to do obedience? And he says, with food. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah. As we talked about it with Hans off camera.
Never use food, man.
Well, if you can do it without food, some of these people say, well, I can do it without food. Why don't you do it without food then? Supposedly that you said you can do it, but whatever. So long story short, I'm like, we got to record this stuff. This is good. This is Hans's knowledge is so great. Over 50 years of dog training, and I just don't know many other guys at his age. You're 70 years old that actually actively wants to put out content. I know you write a lot. Like Hans writes a lot. Like he publishes a lot, but on YouTube, this kind of format, I just don't. I'm sure that we can find someone, but.
Don't oversell me, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to oversell them, but whatever. Listen if you like it, and if you don't like it, then don't listen, kind of thing. I don't know. There's nothing in between, but Hans will make you think. I think that's the big one.
So what are we going to talk about today? Tracking,
search and rescue.
Friendly and unfriendly, I call it.
Yeah. Right, so that's it.
Again, what people always wonder, how come Hans has all these unusual ideas? And you know why? Because I never had really any teacher. I said, okay, I want to search and rescue, and I start talking to people, and I try to figure it out, and all that. And I remember what they did in Czech.
This is before internet.
Yeah, it was before internet.
That's just
way back before internet.
Yeah,
and in 80s or even 70s.
Yeah,
you know? And so I had to figure stuff for my own.
Yeah,
and so I'm kind
of
Czechs will understand. We call it samorost.
Samorost. You talked about
what samorost is?
You told me about it. It's when you're walking on the it doesn't have to be beach, but driftwood. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looked like something. It looked like heron or a cat or something. Piece of wood, right?
Yeah,
and in Czech, that's a common hobby. People go
collect it.
Or I don't know, now they probably scratch old phones like they do here in America. But back then, people had hobbies. They would go in the woods by the creek or river, and they would find a piece of wood all worn out and all that. And it has certain shape.
Yeah.
And the shape could be just abstract, like a sculpture, abstract sculpture, or it could remind you of some animal or something. Yeah. Right. And those are called samorost. In other words,
it's natural.
Samo means alone, and rost means grow. It just happened by itself.
Yeah,
right.
The weather shaped it or whatever.
Yeah, and that's besides me being iconoclast, I'm also samorost.
Oh man, you guys have to get the dictionary out. So if you're new to this podcast, you're wondering what is this guy what are they talking about? I just thought he's going to talk about search and rescue.
Everybody talks like what was the guy named Max Headroom or
Max Headroom? I know the character, but
it was talking always like this. This is how it is, and it was this robotic
Character.
digitalized character on when
Is it
you know,
HBO or something? Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty fun to watch him. It was commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max Headroom.
Yeah.
And so I hate that. I
Yeah.
like spontaneous things.
Yeah.
And all that. And I like to talk about, why I'm thinking the
Yeah.
way I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I want people, what do I want? People can do whatever they want, right?
What you would like.
But I would like people
Yeah.
to tell people, try to think for yourself. Don't do something because special forces are doing it or cops. They make mistakes too, believe me. Right? Just always, friend of mine, James Durnall, good guy, man. He's kind of on the same page as I am. And as far as dog training and anything goes, and he says, Hans, I like your dog training because you are like Jack London. So now we have a Paganini, what else?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, the Paganini.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Da
right?
Vinci.
The Renaissance
If you
man.
guys,
and now I'm like Jack London, right? Now Jack London was a commie, so not necessarily that part. But what Jack London did, he always compared everything to nature. Mm-hmm. How to survive. How one of the greatest stories, Build a Fire. It's a short story. People need to read that. It's just amazing.
It's called
story. Build the Fire.
That's what it's called.
By
Build
Jack
a Fire.
London.
Okay.
And White Fang and all that. Right?
Yeah.
And it's all about nature, all how they tried to figure out that wolf he had, and all that he bit him at first and all that. Here they would put him down and this guy tried to figure it out and all that. It's just great stories, right?
Yeah.
And it's all coming from the nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Just observe the nature or learn about it if you cannot observe it.
Yeah.
And then draw your own conclusion. And maybe you will be wrong because you draw the wrong conclusion. But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You have open mind and you say, okay, well, I guess it's not that way. So sit down, like I always say, Gary Levesque, and light a cigarette or imaginary one and make yourself a coffee and take a break, 20 minutes or half an hour and
kind of meditate on
meditate on it and try to figure it out. Don't just do something just because everybody does it,
Yeah. That's the problem with the internet because it's like fire. It goes so fast across that's why you see.
But how is this the worst sentence ever said? We do it that way because everybody else does it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. It's just the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Be samorost.
Yeah.
Grow your own thing.
Yeah.
And then compare with others, and try to figure out maybe they're right. I don't know.
Be that crazy.
No, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Be that mad scientist that does all these experiments.
Yeah. What were we going to talk about?
I don't know. Just this was the episode. It was good seeing everybody. So we'll see you next time.
No, we're talking about tracking, right? Tracking.
Yeah, tracking.
So you go and there are all these gurus teaching dogs how to track.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, that's akin to teaching dog how to bite. So stupid.
Good analogy.
Right? Dogs, when they were lizards and frogs and whatever, if you believe in evolution, knew how to bite, and that's how they survive. And now we, in our arrogance, are going to tell the dog how to bite, teach them how to build bite on piece of pillow.
Which has so many other issues that come with it that's negative.
That's so ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with tracking. They drip water with chicken juice in it on a hard surface tracking and make seminars in Holland, and people come there from all over the world to watch this guy walking with a what do you call it? The thing you water the plants, or take a milk jug and punch a hole and drip, 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 and walks, and dog is sniffing chicken. Order, it's just like, what are you doing? I mean, yeah, it works, but it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
You don't need to teach dogs to track. Dogs know how to track.
They had to survive.
Yeah.
The wolf had to survive.
You just look. There are drives and instincts, right? And we should make a video on sometimes on what's the difference, but just
I'll make a note of it.
yeah, just let it be now. Okay, so you have people. I mean, the dogs have drives and instinct to track, to track. They know how to do it. That's how they survived for millions,
It's
maybe
impossible.
tens of millions or hundreds of millions of years.
It's impossible for us to teach them
Yeah, it's like teaching,
a fish how to swim.
yeah, or bird how to fly. You gotta fly like this. Look what I do. You know? Oh my God. It's the same. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody says if somebody does something stupid, the best way to show them that they're doing something stupid is to ridicule them in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't try and piss anybody off or destroy somebody.
But you explain it to people when you do that, why you did that. That's the thing with Hans. He says, I did that because of this. This is why I did it.
Yeah.
I ridiculed you not to make fun of you, but I wanted to point out, kind of shake the cage a little bit here to wake you up.
I read the other day that you can, I put it on my Facebook too. I don't know exactly how it went, but it was something that if you tell somebody that they're stupid, they'll get mad at you, but if you turn into humor, they may listen or something like that. It was good, you know. And so anyway, going back to the tracking, you know, as I said, dogs know how to track, so tap into that knowledge. Like my former colleague, dog trainer Rodney Saad said, go along with the dog. You know, look what he does. Your task is not to teach the dog to track. Your task is to teach the dog to do it for you. So you motivate them, right, to do it. Now, why the dog? So you motivate them by telling them, I want you to do what you do in nature, tracking rabbit or animal, and do it for me, you know?
Yeah.
And if you do that, then I will reward you for it, right? And tracking is based on prey drive. People say, oh, Hans doesn't like prey drive. What the hell is that supposed to mean? How do I not like prey drive? That's ridiculous. I like prey drive. Prey drive is really important. Just as important as defense drive, right? It's just for different tasks. So defense drive is for defending and prey drive is for hunting and finding something with the nose, right? So when you do tracking, it's a prey-based exercise. So the dog in nature, or canines or wolves or coyotes or whatever, they track to find something and kill it and eat it. Now, we may skip the killing and eating if it's search and rescue,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
we gotta supplement it with something else.
A reward.
With some kind of a reward, like with a toy or something like that.
So toy has its place.
Yeah, toy, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's
in
not,
prey drive,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, in prey drive.
Not in protection,
Yeah.
but or obedience, but
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a prey drive. So you gotta motivate the dog to do this for you on command, right? So, and of course, you know, when let's start first talking about friendly tracking, which would be search and rescue. I call it friendly tracking, in opposition to unfriendly tracking, which would be track and bite, right? In other words, so in search and rescue, what you do, you on the end reward the dog with prey object, which would be a toy, as I said, right? You can do food, but it's better use toy, okay? Because you always have toy. Stick, you can always find a stick,
Yeah.
right? So you teach the dog to chase a stick, right? Or use a flirt pole. I have a video on how to use flirt pole correctly, right? And you know, I don't say drsh, right? I say search, right? When I do flirt pole, I teach the dog to First I gotta determine what do I want the dog for, right? So if I want it for search and rescue, I take a flirt pole, put some white cotton sock or something on the end and start flickering it above the ground and start giving the dog a command to search, right? Just that's one thing. So I get the dog, after a while, the adrenaline goes through the circle in their brain and the prey drive gets developed to the dog is completely frantic to catch that lure on the end of the flirt pole, right?
Yeah.
So I have that, okay? And so now I have that dog like that, right? And the flirt pole represents the rabbit. You know, I told the dog, that sock is a rabbit, right? And they want it really bad, right? And when they want it really bad, then I go in the woods or in the field somewhere, and I have the stranger holding my dog, puppy. I start as early as 8 weeks, right, or 6 even. As long as the dog start, I go along with the dog. As long as the dog starts showing me that they can do the flirt pole and pray and all that, I start teaching the dog search and rescue. I can do it with this older dog, but that's as soon as I start, right?
Yeah.
If I have a young dog or puppy. So the stranger holds the dog, and I'm running away from the dog. 50 feet at first, maybe. And I carry my flirt pole with me, right? And the puppy is crazy about flirt pole at that time, right? And the handler, the person who holds the dog, keeps saying, search, search, and hold the dog, right? And I was doing search when I was doing the flirt pole, right? Flicking it and saying, search, search, search. And dog went crazy chasing the sock on the flirt pole. And I'm then the guy, my helper, hold that puppy back, and the puppy is just frantic, screaming. Separation anxiety, drive, unsatisfied drive to get that flirt on that flirt pole, right?
Yeah.
And all that, and me, his master, running away and calling him to come. And I keep saying, and the guy saying, search, 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 and dog is just crazy, just run, go, go, go. And then the helper releases the puppy with again word search, and the dog runs towards me, and I start playing with him with the flirt pole. Right? Now, right now the dog is looking. He sees me, right? And people say, a lot of police I talk to and all that, they say, well, we want the dog to use the nose, and that's true, but don't put a cart in front of the horse, right? So this is the foundation for this, and I keep coming further and further and further. And at certain point, let's say I'm 150 yards away, I go with a friend, with another person, stranger, and the dog is being sent on search, right? And when he comes to us, my friend is playing with the flirt pole, with the puppy. Not me, I'm just hanging around. So now the dog realizing the flirt pole is the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And the dog is realizing, stranger will play with me too. And I start using different strangers, right? And then next step is I get out of the picture completely. And maybe I will hold the puppy and say search and let him. Now the puppy runs and he sees that guy over there with his flirt pole, right? So he goes there. And now that's when the tracking starts. I'm gonna hide that guy with the flirt pole or with the toy. Eventually we can get rid of the flirt pole and just use stick, right? Same thing basically. Or toy, like tug of war or whatever, right? And whatever makes the dog tick. Don't force on the dog something they don't want to do. If like a lot of I've seen a lot of trainers, they make sure the dog can retrieve copper pipe. Dogs hate to retrieve copper pipe. So I said, why are you teaching him to retrieve copper pipe? And they said, if he can retrieve copper pipe, he can retrieve anything. And I said, well, but then you're getting rid of all the dogs who hate copper pipes and they still can do great search, right?
Yeah.
So go along with the dog and let him, if he likes tennis ball or rubber ball or
ultimately you want to find that
whatever he likes,
person,
use that.
Yeah, so
right?
Yeah.
And then, so the person runs towards the woods, let's say, and makes a 90 degrees turn, about 20 feet in the bush. And the puppy runs up there and he doesn't see him.
Yeah.
So he says, where is he? And he starts using his nose, right? And then when he finds a person, yeah, good boy, and play tug of war, flirt ball, tennis ball, stick, whatever works, okay? Right? There you go.
Yeah.
And then the person is hiding further and further and further, mile away, eventually, or more. And the dog is just searching that way, right?
Yeah.
I'm not teaching the dog to put nose to the ground. He knows that needs to put the dog down if he wants his prey object, which is the toy or whatever, right? And so I just gotta communicate to him. So when you hear the command search, and I like search because it's in it, and the dogs are very perceptive, hearing-wise, to that S and ch,
Search.
You can completely skip all the other letters except say search, right? And the dog go, whoa, they get conditioned to it really quick, and adrenaline goes up, and endorphins, and everything is just happy, and I gotta find it, like a drug addict trying to get a drug dealer, which is the guy with the toy.
Yeah.
And then the guy is hiding further and further and further. And that's your unfriendly searching, right? That's a basic. And then you can do it, you come to the place, like a trailhead or somewhere, or you go in the woods and the person would hide, so you in other words, you're putting the dog on a track without the dog seeing the person.
Yeah, just put him on the track.
Put him on the track. Now, where is the bridge? The bridge it's the same person he looked for before, right? But then we changed that too. So after that bridge is utilized, we just putting the dog on a track for any person. You can give him send article, like in a car, there is a handkerchief or something, or make him sniff the seat and say, search, search. And the dog knows, okay, this is the order I go for, right? And you keep doing it.
Yeah.
And you're going further and further and further, and then utilizing the air scenting tracking. Let the dog do his job.
It's such a complex mechanism. We don't even fully understand what it
Instead
just
of
works.
dripping chicken juice. Okay. And then, of course, we have several different kinds of searches, right? Mainly we have wilderness, which is the one I was involved in most, up in Wyoming. Avalanche, earthquake disaster, drowned victims, right? Drowned victims is basically just air scenting. There are some others, but those are the basics, right? And drowned victims is very interesting type of searching. It's basically a recovery. It's not really a search and rescue because the person underwater is dead, right? So what I did, again, you see, nobody told me this. I tried to figure out how am I. We had a search and rescue group up in Wyoming, and we put a scuba diver underwater, and the dogs were just like, "What the hell is going on?" Right? And because we didn't communicate to them. And so I went, in the woods and sit on the stump and meditated, And I said, okay, this is how I'm gonna do. I went to a barber shop, right? Because it's hard to get at human body parts. Right, like a finger or arm or leg. It's kind of difficult. It's possible. If you get a permit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's just too much crap, right? Yeah. And who cares, right? so I get a barber shop, and I ask the barber if I can get some of the hair from the floor, and he thought I'm some kind of a deviant.
Yeah.
But I explained him what, and he said, "Sure, So I got a plastic bag full of hair,
Okay.
right? Human hair.
Yeah.
And then I went and in the woods, left the dog in the car, and took that bag, put a rocks in it with the hair, made a bunch of holes in it, and put in there, and put it there, put that underwater, right? Shallow at first.
Yeah.
Even some of it was bobbing above in the air, right? And I took the ball, favorite ball of the dog, and we went by the river, and I kept saying, search, search, search. It was virgin area. Nobody ever walked there except maybe me before, but there was nothing, no orders basically. Except, and dog would go search, search, and suddenly he got that whiff of that, and that's how I do explosive detection too, for example. Suddenly the dog got this whiff of this hair in the water, in that plastic bag, bobbing a little bit. And you gotta watch the dog, and you gotta know how to read it, right? And the dog would kind of alert it on it, like, what's that? Right? And I said, good boy, and threw him a ball, right?
That's you gotta catch that moment though.
Got to catch that moment, right?
Yeah.
And you put it, I don't know, foot from the shore, so it's right there. The dog goes. And they're very inquisitive animals because that's how they survive. So he just goes. And
you're just rewarding the behavior.
I just rewarding what they already know and what they react to.
Yeah.
And as the dog goes, his head jerks towards the odor, primary source of the odor.
Yeah.
And as soon as he does it, I communicate to him, yes, this is it, good boy, here's the ball. And I do it a few times, and after a while, when he finds the hair in the water, he says, oh, there it is, I want you to throw me a ball, right? And then I made the dog to swim to that hair because it's a search and rescue, it's not explosive detection or drug detection.
You can go to it.
So he can go to it and even pick it up, right? And drag it out. I would point at it with a stick. Come on, get it. Come on, get it. And the dog would pick it up and drag it. I again throw him a ball. I don't put that ball inside of that bag because I don't want the dog to. Some people train that way, but I think it's not sound. I don't think it's sound because the dog then you don't know if he's searching for the ball or for the hair. Right, or for the odor of the person, right, the hair, but so I kind of force him, right. I say, check right there, get it, and he would go and pick it up, and as soon as he grab on it, throw him a ball again, and then I would put it under the water. I got the dogs diving in 4 feet of water, dragging that bag down out of the depth of the water.
So the scent comes.
The scent comes up, and if it's lake, it goes vertically up. And if it's in the stream, the dog may start reacting
way down,
right? Because of the odor, before it makes it to the surface, moves down the stream, right? And that's a different issue, right? But if I see the stream is moving swiftly, and I see the dog trying to dive in that spot, I know there's nothing there probably. And I try to go upstream and, direct the divers or searchers.
At least it's the general area.
Yeah. And, but you see, I'm talking about training. I'm not talking about practicing actual search.
Yeah.
So I do it in relatively stagnant, not moving water.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want to communicate to the dog clearly. If you go down there and dive for it, and first they stick the head under the water.
Yeah.
And then they even dive. I've seen this Rottweiler in swimming pool. They would throw him a brick. God forbid, don't do that, right? And the dog, because it wears teeth out, right? But the Rottweiler would dive in, 15-foot pool and just gut the brick and bring it to the surface. They can do that. again, don't throw a dog a brick, please.
Yeah.
It was stupid, but it was
Yeah.
interesting knowledge to see that the dog is able to go under the water that deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and you motivate the dog with the ball, which is the food
Yeah.
in nature, right?
Yeah.
So it's all natural. It's
Yeah.
all natural. The tracking is natural. The air scenting is natural. The reward is natural.
Yeah.
You know. Okay. Yeah. Then you have a sport tracking. I'll touch on it. Sport tracking is different because you want to go from footprint to footprint to footprint. And one of the good ways to do it is you putting food under your foot as you lift the heel. You make a little scent pad and put a bunch of morsels of food there. And dog tracks for food, right? So you don't feed the dog.
Yeah.
And there is these morsels of food. Canned cat food works really fantastic. And the dog comes and he eats these little morsels of food on the scent pad, which you kind of step in a square, like 2 by 2 feet, and take the dog to it. And then you start putting every footstep under your heel as you're lifting the heel, a piece of food, and you do it for 3 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet. And on the end of the foot, the track, you have a dish with food, and that's where the dog eats. So it's all natural again. Right, and I'm not sport too much, but that's how you can do it in sport. Works really good. Okay, and then you're removing the morsels of food, and you don't put it under each footprint. You put it under second, and then under fifth, tenth, and so on. You know, and then we have an unfriendly search. Right, unfriendly search is search for people who are bad guys.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you actually said unfriendly in the beginning. If you guys were listening, and when
I mentioned it.
Or is that what you meant? Okay.
Yeah, I first started what I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk.
Okay, I thought you meant friendly first, but okay, maybe it's me. Sorry.
Well, there's different kinds. There's friendly, and then there's unfriendly, right?
Yeah.
So I talked about friendly so far. Now I'm going to talk about unfriendly, right?
Yeah.
An unfriendly search is different from friendly search in a way that on the end of the track, dog either holds and barks or bites.
Yeah.
Preferably bites, I think.
Yeah.
You know, but it depends on jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Usually that's what law enforcement does. You as a private citizen should never get involved in unfriendly searches. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And you may get killed, and your dog may get killed.
Yeah.
Right. And I did actually experiment in Arizona desert, and we would lay a track, unfriendly track, you know, so the dog would search for the unfriendly person. And if that unfriendly person waited you out in some kind of a bush or something, the dog and you were a dead cookie. Because that person who is waiting for you will know about you way before you or the dog will know about you. And that's why it's such a dangerous thing to do. And in law enforcement, they have at least 1 or 2 people, usually with shotgun, who are protecting the canine team. Because the canine team got to focus on the tracking, and it all needs to be done online. I may talk about it later. You know, and even so, people disagree. But I worked with some of the best tracking law enforcement people in the world, and that's what they told me, but that's a little later. So you be careful because it's very, 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 very dangerous. If that person is armed and he's willing to use deadly force against you, you have very little chance that you are gonna not get shot.
Yeah.
Right? In unfriendly search, you can send a helicopter ahead of you. You know, if the dog tracks certain way, you can fly a helicopter and see maybe with infrared at night or whatever, you know. But those are tactics which I'm not expert on. I'm a dog trainer. And I'm just saying this up front before I start talking about unfriendly search, because I don't want you to ever do that for real. You may screw around with it as amateurs, as a fun, But remember, you can get killed in real life scenario really easy
Yeah.
if that person is willing to kill you that you're searching for,
Yeah.
right? So the way you search for unfriendly person, it's basically long distance attack,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Except you do it on long line, and again, I'll come to it later,
Yeah.
right? So you do long distance attack, first 5 feet, 10 feet, 100 feet, 100 yards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The guy runs in front of you, say, "Dersh, dersh, pull dersh," and holding the dog back.
Yeah.
And the dog is running away, the bad guy is running away and hides somewhere
Yeah.
in the bushes. First you keep sending him while he's still in sight, and then he gets out of the sight. Now he gotta use his nose again. Same way as
There it goes.
search and rescue, except you don't motivate. You're not motivating him with a treat. You motivate him with bite,
Yeah.
right?
Concept is.
You know, same thing, same thing. Except in one of them, they will be glad to see you, and if it's a good guy, the otherwise will not like to see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so that's it.
Yep.
And you don't need no chicken juice and all that for that, okay? You just do long distance attacks, dog already knows. I keep talking about the long line, and it's my pet peeve. Okay, I did work with some excellent trackers like Paul Corso and Jason Cotton in Georgia. They had my dogs. And I asked them once, is there a reason why you should not use long line while you do unfriendly tracking? And they emphatically and unequivocally said, no, there is no reason. You always use long line. Now, there are trainers and handlers who will argue with you to death, but if you don't have a dog on long line and you have a citizen, innocent bystander pop up, there is that great video of this poor woman being behind the dumpster and the dog goes, you know, and that was on long line actually, I think. And the dog went around the corner and she was right behind the dumpster and he bit her. In other words, what happens is there may be an innocent bystander you don't even know about.
Yeah.
Or somebody may pop out of the house and dog will redirect on the closest target. That's her natural propensity. Yeah. You know, if the dog chases a bunch of deer and they're 100 yards away in front of him, and suddenly he sees one 20 yards away, well, then he goes for the 20 yard away.
Yeah, he wants to,
Again, learn from the nature, right?
Yep.
You know, and if you don't have the dog on long line, then you are only depending on your ability to control the dog with your voice, which may be very good, but nothing is 100%.
Yeah.
And if that dog bites innocent person, I don't care what's the situation, you may lose your canine program. It's just not worth the chance.
Yeah.
Besides that, morally and ethically, innocent person got bit.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
that's not something to discard, right? As unimportant.
Yeah, it's very important.
Right. So you know, it's important so that you know that's what I learned from these guys. And Johnny, you know, the canine Johnny, this Jason Cotton. Jason told me he had. Last time I talked to him was 100. He says, well, I said, how many apprehension he has? He said, about 170 or maybe 270. I don't even know. That's what he said. I'm just quoting.
Yeah.
Right. So they know what they're doing, those guys. And they always tracked with the long line. There's no really reason not to. I really cannot come up with, and people are giving me reason. They said, dog, you know, also what happens is the dog will take off. You know, you've seen those videos from Pasco County with this dog. What was his name? Whatever. Forgot. he sent him, and the dog it's gone. And this guy running behind the dog, and there's a fork in the road, and now which way do I go?
He doesn't even know where the dog
Yeah,
is.
dog is gone. And then he hears this guy screaming, so he knows, oh, okay, I gotta go that way.
But that's a big risk.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this content so far, please subscribe to our channel. Also, Hans has a podcast channel called Dog Training for Life. Check that out so you can listen to the audio version.
Yeah. Keep the dog on a long line. Best line is somewhere between 15 and 20 feet. People say, well, the line gets tangled. You know what? You can learn to handle the line in cluttered room with chairs or in bushes. I was seeing these guys in Georgia. They had this shit vegetation called kudzu.
I've seen it.
And there's nothing more unfriendly to long line handling of your dog than that.
Yeah.
It grows everywhere. It's just like, and there are tunnels through which under the kudzu.
Yeah.
And those guys would crawl like a desert tunnel rats in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Through that, following the dog, and
Yeah.
so use the long line, But anyway, that's a different issue, kind of. But since we're talking tracking, I thought this is my pet peeve, so I wedged it in.
Yeah.
But basically, it's all about the going back to what I talked about to conclude this. It's all about motivation, right? And you don't need any fancy schmancy courses in Holland, and unless you want to have a vacation in Holland and convince your police department to pay for it,
Now you just ruined it for.
Yeah, but you can do it like that, just you don't need much, few bucks of equipment.
Yeah.
Go behind the town in the fields and woods and bushes and start working.
But it's too simple, huh? It's like Rocky, when he was fighting the Russian guy, and they showed the Russian
Dragov.
guy. Yeah, it's like he's got all this equipment, computerized punching.
Yeah,
and
there
measuring.
you go.
And
Same
then they
thing.
showed Rocky in the snow with like carrying wood over his shoulder.
Yeah. Well, that's inspired by Anton Gissing.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah.
I mean, he was I loved, he was the first white guy, not Japanese guy, who kicked Japanese ass in judo in Olympics and world championships and stuff. He's like a national hero in Holland.
Yeah.
In Netherlands, they have a statue of him there and all that, And I remember this book. It was called, I think the book's name was My Judo or something like that. And there is a picture of this giant Anton Gissing standing on some trail somewhere up in the mountain, and these two giant logs over his shoulder. Under it says written, moment of resting during intensive exercise. Yeah, you don't need some fancy schmancy stuff.
Yeah. You have to understand the foundation.
Take a backpack and put a big rock in it and
Go.
I remember guys, they were from college in Russia in the Caucasus Mountains, and this one guy, he's like big sportsman and all that. That was my class, and they and he was like muscle guy and all that, always proud and he was always ahead hiking up the mountains. So what they did, the kids, they took this boulder, right, and put it on the bottom of his backpack, and then put his shirts and socks and on top of it. So he didn't know there's this giant boulder. The boulder was like fucking 50 pounds or something.
Yeah.
And this guy, he picks up the fucking backpack in the morning and says, fuck, it's heavy somehow today. And he carried it for like 3 days through the mountains before we realized
That there was a boulder. It's pretty funny.
boulder in his backpack, So that's what we did in college to each other.
Hey, you have to have fun. Before the internet. Well, thank you, Hans. Yeah. I mean, there's more. Obviously, this topic, you can discuss other things, but eventually you want to do and maybe some of you are watching this, it's already done, but you want to do a video about
Search and rescue.
Search and rescue.
Yeah, I would like to make one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Search and rescue is I have a soft spot for it.
Yeah.
You know.
So,
You know, I met some people who got caught in avalanches and stuff like that, and you hear their stories. And I was talking about that avalanche in Utah
Yep.
and all that, which I was part of. I mean, I didn't get caught in it, but I predicted it,
Yeah.
and then it slid. And anyway, I just always admired the search and rescue people.
Yeah.
You know, they're a special breed.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. They are. It's amazing when you see those dogs working.
Yeah. But you know, the search and rescue people think it's fun. It's usually not fun, you know.
The dog get.
You know, it's a lot of work. I remember when I was in charge of search and rescue, starting up in Wyoming, and people who had interest in search and rescue, so they called me. I said, "All right, give me your phone number. I'll call you. You know, when we are going to have a workout." And it's okay. When I had like 20 people who wanted to do search and rescue dogs, I went. It's Saturday at 2:00 at night when the snow was falling horizontally. Everybody drunk after Friday partying and stuff, right? So I start calling people at 2:00 at night on Saturday, and I said, "We have a mock-up search. I'll meet you in a courthouse in half an hour in Jackson."
Yeah.
And out of those 20 people, maybe 2 people showed up, and those were the people I was going to work with.
Yeah. That's the reason you did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, you know, if you
Search and rescue.
usually people don't get lost in nice weather.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they get lost when shit comes down, or sometimes it may be nice weather like in avalanche and stuff. But you know, you don't.
You never know. Basically.
You don't never know. Usually, especially in Czechoslovakia, there was an interesting phenomenon which we don't have here that much in the United States. The mountains, like the Krkonoše and stuff, they had a lot of fog. And people would get lost in fog. And especially when it was snowing, the trail got snowed over and you didn't know where the heck you are, and you just
fog.
And so they were putting the stakes, like a 10-foot stakes by the trail. So when the snow comes, you can see the stake, and you can even in thicker fog, you can see from one stake to another, right? Stick. And sometimes I remember we used to go with our school to this area where we for week skiing, you know, kids, you know, little kids, and there were like 3 or 4 cabins on this open, big clearing in the mountains. Bottom one was where the restaurant was and all that, and there were the cabins above that where people would stay overnight. And it was not when I was there, but we went there, and there was this really nice guy, the caretaker. And once we came, and he wasn't there. So we were saying, where is the caretaker? And they said, he died. And you know how he died? He lived there all his life since he was a little boy and taking care of those cabins all the time. And the fog was so thick that he tried to go from one cabin to another, and he thought that he would know how to do it, but the fog was so thick that he was lost between those cabins. They were about 150 yards apart, you know. Those cabins kind of scattered freely on that mountainside. And they could see his footprints next day, and he would be walking a zigzag figure-8 circle until he froze to death.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, so that was the phenomenon of search and rescue. Big deal in Czechoslovakia, in those mountains, was fog. People were lost in fog. Anyway, just a little story.
No, it's great. Thank you for sharing that. Please subscribe, share, all that good stuff, because
so I can make $1 million.
Yes, Hans needs a jet, and once we reach 1,000 people, what is it? How much you make per?
0.000.
3 zeros.
3 after the comma, right? So 0.0003 cents.
Yeah, per
view.
So that's where we're at, everybody.
So you tell, you know, I'm strongly motivated by the money.
Yes.
But you know, I probably will be 150 years old before it starts making any money. But maybe not. Maybe
No, we're just appreciative for
Yeah, I
all
like
of
to
you.
do this, you know.
Yeah, it's a passion thing for Hans. Otherwise, it's a never do anything for money because you're gonna get
Burned out.
burned out, discouraged, and all the good stuff.
And then when you make the money, then what?
Then what? Then what? You reach the mountaintop. There's a top. There's no
Yeah, and
top.
so I said, now I have money.
Yeah,
Okay, and then people commit suicide, right?
and crazy
Like
stuff.
Hemingway, for example.
I know. Money will not solve many things. So visit Alpine Canine Reel, and that's where the instructional videos are. How to feed a puppy raw, the protection videos. Eventually, we'll have when we shoot, or maybe already have when you're watching this, the search and
Rescue video,
video,
kind of
which is
practical
important.
thing.
Yep, practical.
We gotta do the video, practical video on calm too. The frustration comes.
Yes. So, but that's visit the website.
We have a lot of plans.
A lot of plans and stuff, but we just hope you enjoyed the content, and we Hans and I try to make it kind of educational and fun at the same time. So, thank you, sir.
Ahoy.
Sayonara.
Sayonara.